Destiny is a sci-fi first-person shooter video game developed by former Halo developers Bungie and published by ACTIVISION, and it's one of the more successful space adventures enjoyed by the gaming community since, well, Halo. With its unique game design and cross-galactic gameplay, it's no wonder that this beautiful space shooter has had fans enthralled since its release in September 2014. Whether you're a sucker for deep lore or simply a lost guardian and wanting to know what the fuss is about, we've got you covered. I'm Ascended Nomad, and today I'm going to be running you through 107 facts about Destiny. Let's get started. Number 1. Destiny is a hybrid MMORPG shooter where players must take on the role of Guardians, the last remaining hope for humanity. They must protect the lost city of Earth from the forces of the darkness, using the power of the Traveler and its light to counter the various enemy factions hellbent on destroying humanity. Number 2. The Traveler is a city-sized sphere in Destiny of unknown origin. It first came into contact with humanity when humans discovered it on Mars during an exploration mission. Upon its discovery, it sparked a golden age of humanity, advancing technology and making colonization on other planets possible. Number 3. This golden age ended a few centuries later when an ancient enemy of the Traveler, known as the Darkness, destroyed most of humanity's interplanetary empire. This event was known in Destiny lore as the Collapse. The Traveler retreated to Earth and sacrificed itself to protect the lost city, encapsulating it in a defensive aura. Number 4. The Guardians, which are the players in Destiny's living world, are made up of 3 species: Human, Awoken, and Exo. Players can choose to be one of the 3 classes: Hunter, Titan, or Warlock. Number 5. The Awoken are a player species that, in Destiny lore, descend from humans. During the Collapse, a population of humans tried to flee the darkness on the edges of known space, but something happened to them that forever changed their way of life. They resided in the Reef, an area of the asteroid belt that they colonized, littered with the debris of starships from their failed escape. Number 6. The Exo species of character were developed by humans to be self-aware war machines during the Golden Age, with the sole purpose of protecting their creators. During the Collapse, they were rebooted and have no memory of their original function. Number 7. There are 3 classes in Destiny, as previously mentioned. Those who choose the Titan subclass are described as armored engines of war, who can control any battle with their strength and strategy. They are the battle rams of the game, and their powers demand a playstyle that favors powerful combat. Number 8. The Hunter is the rogue lone wolf of Destiny that specializes in tactical and precise gameplay. The game refers to them as the trailblazers of the Golden Age, using the energies of the Traveler to survive anything the Frontier can throw at them. Number 9. The Warlock is the most academic of the 3 classes, and true to the namesake, it is the closest thing to a traditional mage that Destiny offers. They harness the mystical powers of the Traveler to influence space wizardry destruction to all their enemies. Number 10. The Guardians are long dead warriors that are reanimated with the Traveler's light, carried by a small robotic AI called a Ghost. These corpses are specifically chosen by the Traveler and the Ghost. Number 11. The Guardians live in the Tower, which presides over the lost city and the Traveler. It serves as a social space in the game where you can group up with other Guardians and buy new gear and items from vendors. You can also withdraw and deposit items from the vault. Number 12. The last city was initially rumored to be somewhere in Russia, given the game's first explorable area. The Cosmodrome is denoted to be in Old Russia. Some fans have theorized that the last city was in northern Canada, but one Reddit user who described himself as a sundial enthusiast studied the sun patterns and shadows in the tower to determine that the last city was in Chile. Number 13. The Darkness as an entity is somewhat of a mystery, but it has said to lend its powers to the factions that war against humanity. These factions are the Fallen, the Vex, the Hive, and the Cabal. Without going too far into detail, the Fallen are a race of pirates and scavengers, the Vex are the machines of the future, the Hive are the parasites, and the Cabal are the unstoppable military juggernaut. Number 14. The game has an all-star cast, with Peter Dinklage to play the key character of the Ghost who acts as the player's companion throughout the game. He was later replaced by Nolan North following criticism of his performances. Other names include Lance Reddick from The Wire, and Firefly alumni Nathan Fillion and Gina Torres as the Vanguard class leaders. Lauren Cohan of The Walking Dead was cast as the Exo Stranger, and Bill Nighy as the Speaker. Number 15. The main storyline focuses primarily on helping restore some of the power to the Traveler after it sacrificed itself to save the lost city. You are revived in the ruins of Old Russia and promptly return to the Tower, where you are sent on a galactic merry-go-round of planets and characters to find the Black Garden and destroy it. Number 16. The game features a Diablo-style loot-based progression system which is completely random. The loot comes in the form of small orbs called engrams, and their color color-coded appropriately to match their rarity and their power. White is common, green is uncommon, blue is rare, purple is legendary, and yellow is exotic. Number 17. Destiny was developed by Bungie, some small indie studio who may or may not have created the billion-dollar franchise that is Halo. Number 18. Bungie were a subsidiary of Microsoft Game Studios, which currently runs the Halo series, having produced Halo 4 and Halo 5 with the spin-off company 343 Industries. So, an MMO FPS with an all-star cast and a wicked-sounding storyline? How are they going to make this? Well, let me tell you. Number 19. On October 1st, 2007, Microsoft and Bungie announced their split right after the news that Halo 3 had netted $300 million in global sales. An insider believed that Microsoft's desire to be very hands-on, coupled with Bungie's desire to create new worlds and intellectual property, were the deciding factors. The studio would then go on to make Halo Reach as their final game for Microsoft. Number 20. In Halo 3 ODST, on the streets of New Mombasa and during firefight mode, a poster would show up of Earth with a small white orb hanging in orbit above it. Above the poster were the words, "Destiny awaits." 21. Development for Destiny officially began sometime in 2009, well before the release of Halo Reach, under the project name Tiger. Developer Bungie referenced this Project Tiger towards the end of a documentary which was released, celebrating their own 20-year anniversary. Number 22. This development deal was confirmed to the press after Activision and Bungie joint announced a 10-year publishing deal for the next action game from Bungie. Bungie would own the intellectual property, and Activision would own the rights. Bungie, at the time, was preparing for Halo Reach's public beta and was still contracted with Microsoft to deliver Halo Reach. Number 23. This development deal would later be confirmed as an investment of over $500 million in a 10-year period. Bobby Kotick, Activision CEO, had revealed at the Milken Conference LA that, quote, "If you're making a $500 million bet, you can't take that chance with someone else's IP." Number 24. It was money befitting the scope and scale of the project at hand, as then technical director Chris Butcher told Wired that the development team was, quote, around 3 times the size of Halo Reach, with over 400 people. 25. In the summer of 2013, the entire story of Destiny got a full reboot. This was due to a difference of opinion in Bungie's leadership and head writer Joe Staten on the direction and quality of the existing material. A cinematic supercut of the game's cutscenes was shown to senior staffers at Bungie, and they were so unhappy that they decided to reboot the whole story. This decision was made against Staten's wishes. Number 26. The reboot was incredibly comprehensive. Plot threads, some characters, and most of the dialogue was either scrapped or rewritten entirely. Number 27. The story reboot occurred after Bungie spent considerable time showing off the game. In February of 2013, journalists had been invited into Bungie's headquarters in Bellevue, Washington. There, Bungie panelists promised Destiny would be the, quote, first shared world shooter, presenting an expansive trailer showing off the various aspects of Destiny, complete with gameplay footage. Number 28. The 12-minute demo showed at E3 2013 included a brief trailer which previewed the player's Guardian interacting with an awoken character, then named Crow. This awoken character did show up in the final game as the Queen's brother, Prince Aldrin, with a significantly changed voice and demeanor, but this scene never made the final game. Number 29. Destiny's original story involved the Warmind AI Rasputin in a more prominent role. The early concept art of the bloodied Exo character sitting against the wall was in fact revealed to be Rasputin himself. The entire third act allegedly involved raiding the Dreadnought, which itself was saved for the Taken King expansion, and rescuing Rasputin from the Hive. Number 30. The legendary Warlock Osiris would have featured prominently as an Obi-Wan Kenobi type character, given if Staten and his team had had their way. He apparently lived in an ancient Vex temple on Mercury and would have mentored the player's guardian in some way. Unfortunately, in the final version of the game, Osiris only had one impact, having his name emblazoned on the hyper-competitive multiplayer mode Trials of Osiris. Number 31. In the old story, Osiris had a robotic assistant whose character model would later be reused and repurposed to become the character we know as the Stranger. Number 32. According to former Bungie insiders, the game as a whole was a lot more story-focused than the final product. Each mission would start with a quick communique from a character that would introduce the setting and mission context. Every mission also ended with a full cutscene between 3 to 5 minutes long. Number 33. There were far more explorable areas that were cut from the game or saved for later expansions. There were plans to include an old Chicago area, the Rings of Saturn, Charlemagne's Vault, a European Dead Zone, the Dreadnought, and the Reef. Fact 34. One of the major reasons that senior staffers at Bungie disliked the old story was because of its rhythm, which would have reportedly introduced the player to all 4 major areas within the first few missions. Number 35. The entire plot was scrapped, but the lore, the mythology of the story involving the enemy types, the idea of Guardians, and the Traveler were kept and used as staples moving forward. Number 36. As a result of the reboot, Joe Staten left the company, and Bungie started the process of rewriting without him. Number 37. It was reported that Bungie had hired a writer to condense the existing canned mythology and lore into Grimoire cards, an online-only archive that also serves as a minor progression system in Destiny. As late as February 2014, the game was due to ship out in September of that year. Number 38. The launch of Destiny was originally set by Bungie for September of 2013, but after the fallout of the story reboot, it was revised to March 2014. This was further revised to September 9th, 2014, following an alpha and the July 2014 multiplayer beta. Number 39. In April 2014, composer and audio director Martin O'Donnell was fired from Bungie. In the fall of 2013, O'Donnell took a sabbatical after his music was replaced in one of the E3 2013 trailers. Upon his return, his supervisor and team felt that he was not committed to his role and was subsequently let go. Number 40. In September 2015, Martin O'Donnell won a legal battle against Bungie following his dismissal. He claimed Bungie forced him to surrender all of his stock and to give up his participation in the company's profit-sharing plan. An independent arbitrator ordered Bungie to restore his stock privileges and pay his share of the profit-sharing plan, which was initially set to the sweet tune of $142,500. Number 41. The Iron Bar Group was set up and consists of Bungie co-founder Jason Jones alongside other top Bungie creators including art director Chris Barrett and lead designer Luke Smith. Number 42. The Iron Bar Group was put in charge to create a new strategy for Destiny. Notable decisions include cutting out the Dreadnought and providing its own expansion in the Taken King. The group also changed the order of planet progression and spliced together the disjointed campaign which we're familiar with today. Number 43. After months of speculation, Bungie announced at E3 2014 that they would be partnering with Sony to begin an alpha test for Destiny, exclusive to the PS3 and PS4. This would be the first time anyone would be able to play Destiny outside of a controlled environment. Number 44. The alpha was available from June 12th to June 15th, 2014, and was later extended by a day for the company to try out some, quote, dangerous new experiments. The alpha was available to all who registered before the June 11th deadline. Number 45. The alpha allowed players to create a character from one of Destiny's 3 player classes, Hunter, Warlock, or Titan. Players were hard capped to level 8 for the duration of the test. Number 46. The alpha was limited to Earth missions and area exploration, as well as the side quests and public events that could be triggered through exploration. The alpha also involved the game's multiplayer mode, the Crucible. Number 47. Bungie revealed on June 20th, 2014 that over 6.4 million Crucible games were played cumulatively during the alpha on the PS3 and the PS4, to be precise. Number 48. On July 7th, 2014, which was Bungie's self-celebratory Bungie Day, the company announced that the public beta would go live for PS3 and PS4 users between July 17th and 28th, for Xbox One and 360 users between July 23rd and 28th. Number 49. The public beta was more expansive than the alpha, with all content and activities of the alpha reappearing and showing up for the beta, as well as 4 story chapters, 4 multiplayer maps, and the availability to explore the moon for 1 mission. Number 50. The beta was initially available only to people who had pre-ordered the game from July 17th to 23rd. Bungie frequently gave away beta codes through community websites and its social media accounts. On July 24th, the beta was made public to all. Number 51. On August 1st, Bungie released an infographic that showed 4.6 million players played the public beta across all systems, creating 6.5 million different characters. The average amount of concurrent players was just north of 850,000, and over 88 million games were played. Number 52. The critical reception for the public previews were generally positive, with many critics noting the smoothness of the builds and the unique experience players got with each gun. Many comparisons with Borderlands and Diablo were also made due to their loot-based progression systems. Number 53. By the end of summer, with just a week to go before the launch, Destiny had racked up 2,157,478 pre-orders in the US alone. Number 54. Destiny officially launched on September 9th, 2014, to the tune of $500 million in first-day sales, the same amount Activision planned to spend over the next 10 years. Number 55. This astonishing sales performance prompted a full blog post from PlayStation themselves, saying Destiny was PS4's biggest software launch yet. Number 56. The social numbers for Destiny were also touted by PlayStation. There were more than 11 million gameplay sessions in North America in the first week, as well as being the most broadcasted PS4 game during that same week. Number 57. The critical reception proved to be positive. However, many critics gave mixed reviews as they criticized the game's overall lack of story content while praising its core mechanics, graphics, gameplay, and art direction. The game received an aggregate score of 76 out of 100 on the PS4 and 75 out of 100 on the Xbox Xbox One. Number 58. Bungie themselves did not opt for reviews before release, as they felt the social aspects of the game needed to be judged once the game world was properly populated with thousands of players, so that every activity could be enjoyed in the manner in which it was designed to be played. Number 59. A month after launch, Bungie highlighted in a weekly update that Destiny averages 3.2 million players every day, with the average playtime being 3 hours a day. There were more players online in the first month of Destiny than the days of Halo 3 and Halo Reach combined. Number 60. Initially one of Destiny's biggest challenges, the Vault of Glass, was not made available immediately to the public at launch. This was due to the very steep requirements for entry at the time. Players were recommended to be around level 25 when they tried the Vault. Bungie intentionally delayed the release so that players would have the chance to level up. Number 61. One of the biggest community complaints was the lack of an in-game matchmaking for the raid and other extremely high-end activities without any kind of support service to help people find each other. Enter the Destiny community, who immediately took to Reddit and developed a few external sites to help players find clans and the groups to play activities with. Number 62. One of the earlier daily bounties required the completion of public events while exploring patrol areas on Earth, Venus, Mars, or the Moon, but the events seemingly showed up arbitrarily and without warning. There was no way of tracking it until Reddit user Lax20attack created a website with a self-learning algorithm that implemented a tracking pattern for when people input data in regards to public events. Number 63. The light level progression system that Bungie introduced was, at first, very grindy. The only problem was good gear was hard to come by, even in the endgame activities, so many people started shooting at caves which respawned enemies very quickly, for hours on end, just to get a payload of loot very quickly. These caves were affectionately dubbed loot caves. Eventually, Bungie patched it and fixed the loot system. Number 64. After a few weeks, it was apparent that Destiny was still not a complete game and was missing a few elements. Kotaku journalist Kirk Hamilton released a well-received article on October 6, 2014, outlining some of the changes he'd like Bungie to make to the game. Some changes were minor, some were more substantial, but more importantly, it echoed the sentiments of the community at the time. Incidentally, 13 out of the 31 requests were later implemented at various points in the Destiny DLC cycle. Number 65. Bungie introduced the Iron Banner competitive event for the first time on October 7, 2014, with the promise of level advantages being enabled. This meant, theoretically, that the players with the best gear would reign supreme over those without the best gear, and the rewards of playing Iron Banner were greatly emphasized. However, the event turned into a damp squib, as power advantages were scaled down greatly for the first Iron Banner. Bungie publicly acknowledged this and hinted that this was always the plan, in order to make it fun for everyone. The community, predictably, were not pleased. Number 66. In November of 2014, a woman posted on the Destiny subreddit about her husband who had had a series of brain surgeries, and their doctor recommended that he play Destiny as a form of therapy for the side effects on all those surgeries. And it was working. She wrote, quote, "It's been little over a week, and the game's effect on him has been strong. Week for months, he is flourishing in more than just the game world. He's going out more, making more jokes. The effect of playing the game on his mood has been staggering." Bungie saw this post and sent the man a previously unreleased, unseen exotic from the game called The Fate of All Fools. It was truly one of a kind. Number 67. Community manager David Daig, also known as Deej, publicly acknowledged the pitfalls of the storyline in an interview with IGN. He made the promise of better storytelling with the first expansion called The Dark Below, which would focus on a fallen guardian named Eris and her arrival in the tower. Number 68. The Dark Below was the name of the first Destiny expansion and would see the welcome addition of 3 new story missions, new vendor items, exclusive legendary weapons and armor, and a new raid and strike, as well as 3 new Crucible maps. It would also raise the level cap from 30 to 32. Number 69. The Dark Below was much anticipated to be the shot in the arm for a series struggling to maintain a good critical reception, but unfortunately this expansion fell flat with critics and community alike. The Metacritic score for The Dark Below was just 63, with the user score rated at a horrible 3.0. Number 70. The story of The Dark Below introduced Crota, a hive demigod who is the target of a failed raid by a fire team led by Eris Morn. She pleads with you to end the hive threat on Earth and to seek out and destroy the soul of Crota on the moon, along with the hive wizards trying to resurrect it. Upon the soul's destruction, Crota's being is banished to another dimension, which the player can access via the Crota's End raid in order to kill Crota and end the threat once and for all. Number 71. As previously mentioned, the storytelling was not well received at all. Eris Morn was given no introduction or background apart from a cinematic, and the story did not serve to answer existing questions or properly explain the motivations behind your actions. Number 72. Amongst the biggest gripes was the confusing new economies added into the game, such as the addition of Radiant Shards and energy to replace the Ascendant Shards and energy materials used to level up endgame weapons from the raids. This made the previous hard-earned weapons acquired in the Vault of Glass raid obsolete. Number 73. Exotic gear was completely retooled as well for The Dark Below, with a confusing new system put in place. The weekend exotics vendor, Xur, now offered an upgrade option for your 300 rated exotics to be bumped up to the new damage cap of 331. Instead of a simple exchange, change, Bungie added a new material called exotic shards, which were very rare. Number 74. The lack of an ascension system to bring older and non-raid gears statistically in line with newer gear was met with disdain too. This led to a very narrow endgame system, where there was only one set of armor worth getting in order to hit the maximum level cap. Number 75. With the release of the Dark Below came new weapons, armor, and general things to collect, but the organization system of the in-game vaults was perceived to be cumbersome at best. Reddit user Utrol created a third-party plugin from Google Chrome called Destiny Item Manager, which helped organize your gear. Number 76. A patch was released in mid-February of 2015. Amongst the numerous changes, Bungie decided to nerf the damage output of the auto-rifle weapon subclass by a blanket 2.5%. It is disputed whether or not the numbers were accurate because the community said that the auto-rifle nerf was catastrophic to the game's balance, with the entire weapon class being rendered nearly useless in multiplayer. Number 77. After months of speculation following a leak which purported to show the development cycle for Destiny for the foreseeable future, Bungie formally announced in April 2015 that the next expansion for Destiny would be called the House of Wolves. Number 78. The House of Wolves expansion would contain a substantial new Awoken storyline, a new strike, 3 new Crucible maps, and hundreds of new weapons, armor, and gear. Number 79. Players were also given access to an entirely new social space set in the Reef, the Awoken's home in the asteroid belt. Number 80. The storyline was centered around one of the many fallen houses. The House of Wolves was just one of them. This house was employed by the Queen to protect the Reef, but they turned on the Awoken and slaughtered scores of them. Now led by the rogue Skolas and his insatiable thirst for power, the Reef has turned to the Guardians of the Tower to stop the House of Wolves and to track down Skolas. Number 81. To the surprise of many, Bungie confirmed that the new expansion would not have a raid like the vanilla game and the first expansion did. They would be introducing an all-new arena mode in its place instead, called the Prison of Elders. Number 82. Prior to the announcement, creative director Luke Smith took the odd step to post on a NeoGAF thread to allay fears about mistakes being repeated. He pointed out that the goal was to have fewer barriers to equipping upgrades, and that they didn't want to invalidate the efforts of the people who still run the older raids. It was seen by the media and the fans as concrete proof that yes, after all this time, Bungie is listening and they were responding to the overwhelming feedback. Number 83. Of the raft of changes that Bungie announced with House of Wolves, the introduction of an ascension system was by far the most positively received. Suddenly, weapons that were made obsolete by the Dark Below's messy economies and forward-facing attitude were now viable again thanks to the Ascend mechanic. Number 84. The other changes from the House of Wolves included the vendor screen for the speaker now featured a material exchange kiosk for better in-game management, vaults were given additional space and sorting options, the level cap was raised to 34, and the consolidation of the messy Ascendant, Radiant, Shards, and Energy economies to be replaced by Etheric Light, which was crucial to ascending your guns to the new damage cap of 365. Number 85. The final change revealed by Bungie for House of Wolves was the introduction of an all-new, hyper-competitive Crucible mode called the Trials of Osiris, a game mode that is well loved and is still played en masse today. Players face off each other in groups of 3 in order to get to the Lighthouse, a mythical place that's home to the very best weapons, armor pieces, and items in the game. In order to get there, you must win 9 matches in a row without a single loss. Number 86. 2 new cast members took the spotlight for House of Wolves. April Stewart, who was previously assigned a generic Awoken character voice, was given the lead role of Petra Vench. D. Bradley Baker played the fan-favorite Varix the Loyal, Petra's aide and closest tactical ally in the new storyline. Number 87. Overall, the expansion fared much better with critics than the Dark Below. The overall consensus was that it was a very solid improvement over its predecessor, but overall disappointing because it reminded everyone of the potential of this game that was currently going untapped due to the mishaps of the first 7 months. Number 88. Fans loved it. Bungie responded to most players' complaints and fundamentally fixed a lot of things perceived to be broken or anti-player, such as the generally poor reward system, material management, and the lack of vault space, to name a few. Number 89. On May 6th, before House of Wolves was due to launch, an application to the US Patent and Trademark Filing Office was filed for the Taken King. The application was filed by attorney Jim Chan, who previously did Bungie's trademarks for the Dark Below and the House of Wolves. Number 90. The Taken King was formally announced at E3 2015 during Sony's press conference. The expansion would bring new subclasses to each character class, and the story would focus on Oryx's arrival into the solar system. Oryx would be seeking revenge for his son Crota. There would be new activities, weapons, armor, and a whole new raid to take down Oryx. Number 91. The Taken King's executive producer Mark Noseworthy sought to build on the goodwill generated by House of Wolves by confirming that the Taken King would be content heavy. He also talked up the new Taken class of enemies, which would resemble zombified versions of previous enemy types, but with new powers. Number 92. The level cap would be raised from 34 to 40, and a new leveling system was to be put into place. Now, items and gear give you a certain light level, which would be a weighted average of all your gear's ratings. Number 93. Controversy controversy, unfortunately, wasn't far away from the announcement. When the collector's editions, both digital and physical, for the expansions were detailed, it emerged that certain items would not be made available to the general player base unless they bought in, such as armor shaders and emotes. Developer Luke Smith defended the company's decision to do so in a wide-ranging interview with Eurogamer, by stating if he displayed the emotes to the interviewer, he would, quote, throw money at the screen. Number 94. This controversy led community manager Deej and developer Smith himself to apologize via the company's weekly updates. They offered a solution to make the collector's editions items available for separate purchase for an additional $20. Number 95. Game Informer reported on August 4th that Year 1 weapons would not be brought forward into the new expansion, and no upgrade path would be provided. This is common practice for most MMO games, where expansion after expansion builds off the base of the previous gear and subsequently raises the damage output and stats for the new set of items. Number 96. Each of the Taken King's new character subclasses filled in the missing element for each class. In Destiny, there are three main damage types: Arc, Solar, and Void. The Hunter previously only had an Arc and Solar subclass, Warlocks only had Void and Solar, and Titans had Arc and Void, so a juggling act was often required for harder activities with different types of damage needed at certain parts, but the Taken King would soon change all of that, with every damage type being made available to every character class. Number 97. The new Hunter subclass was named Night Stalker, and was designed to be played as a support class compared to the other relatively offensive subclasses Gunslinger and Blade Dancer. The Night Stalker's main super consisted of a void damage bow and arrow, which could not only kill targets upon impact, but also turn the point of impact into an anchor which tethers fly out of and snare nearby enemies. Number 98. The Titan's new subclass basically turned them into Thor for a short period of time. The subclass named Sunbreaker had a super that grants the players a flaming hammer that would return after you threw it at someone or something, much like the Norse god's Mjolnir hammer. A fireline grenade and normal melee powers were also part of the class. Number 99. Warlocks finally got their Arc-themed subclass, which essentially turned them into the Sith Lord Palpatine. The Stormcaller's super ability is to harness and channel the power of lightning into others. The only difference is, you can move around way more than Palpatine ever could. Fact number 100. The release of the Taken King coincided with a new patch which was primarily to lay the groundwork for the 17GB expansion, but it also changed the way the base game played and felt. Auto rifles were finally brought up to their counterparts as a viable option to use in both PvE and PvP environments, whilst the troublesome shotguns and hand cannons were effectively nerfed. Fact 101. The Taken King dropped on September 15th, 2015, and the reviews were near universally positive. Critics loved the sheer amount of content, the storytelling, and felt like the gameplay had improved. Fact 102. As ever, the fans seemed to like it even more. A lot of the community members were worried that at the steep price of $40, Bungie wouldn't deliver nearly enough content and that it would be a waste. Most were extremely satisfied with the content. Fact 103. Peter Dinklage was replaced as the Ghost with Nolan North for this expansion. The actor's performances have garnered much criticism even from the alpha stages, and Bungie eventually decided to go in a completely different direction. Fact 104. Shortly after launch, Activision CEO Eric Hirschberg announced that Destiny: The Taken King broke the record for the most downloaded day one game in PlayStation history. Fact 105. For Halloween 2015, Bungie announced a new event called Festival of the Lost, which would be downloaded to everyone's consoles at no extra cost. Players could collect candy by completing certain events and trade in their bags of candy to get special masks that depict characters from the Destiny universe. Fact 106. Speaking of something different, in the last week of December 2015, Bungie released the Sparrow Racing League. Another free content update, this mode proved to be quite popular, if a little odd considering Destiny is a shooter first. Finally, fact 107. Destiny was recently updated in April, which saw Prison of Elders make a comeback and the light level cap raised from 320 to 335. The most fundamental change saw the loot system geared more finely towards dropping items within a certain range of your light level, making upgrading your guns feel less like a lottery and more purposeful and direct. If you liked this video, be sure to leave a like below and subscribe to Channel Furtherator. And do be a dear and check out some of the other rather excellent 107 Facts About videos featuring some of your favorite franchises and movies. And if you like me, well, I'm taken. But you can follow me over on Twitter at Ascendant Nomad, as well as my YouTube and Twitch channels by the same name. I'm Ascendant Nomad, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Cheers!